in by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief or a robber. The one who enters the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all of his own, he goes on ahead of them. His sheep follow him because they know his voice. That's exactly what Audrey was talking about, which is such a beautiful thing to unpack. We're not going to unpack that one this morning, but it says, but they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. It says this, Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. They had the duh moment. They didn't get it. I mean, kind of like a lot of us, honestly, when we read Jesus' words, sometimes we just need to unpack these. That's what we do in here on Sunday mornings. We're unpacking a lot of this to see what Jesus is actually talking about. Jesus is addressing the Pharisees, and he uses a worldly example because there were a lot of sheep around back then. So they used this sheep, and we're going to pull up the picture of the sheep pen if we can, if you don't mind, at some point. And what we're going to see is that this sheep pen was actually a walled enclosure. It was tall. It had a lot of the commentaries would actually say that it has like briars or thistles on the top, so that you can't just one hop it over. I know that Dave DeVore is pretty sprightly, and he can just do that, but you can't just one-hop this thing, whether you're a wolf or a person. And it says that there was a walled enclosure, and this is where the sheep take them in and take them out. And it says that the sheep enter by the gate, and so does the shepherd. Anybody who uses anything other than that little portal right there, they're a thief or a robber. That they're actually trying to steal something that's not theirs. Because in this model, you would go the path of least resistance, and you would just go in and get it and come out, if you were honestly the one who was to be shepherding. Now remember, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. So what he is actually telling them, he's saying, you are bad shepherds of God's people. And he's calling out the pastors. He's saying, this guy just came over, and he showed you a miracle, and you kicked him out of the church. You took him, and you said, you can't be close to God, when he was right there in his presence. Think about that. Jesus is calling these people bad pastors. And people are listening to Jesus talk with these Pharisees when they do it. He says, if you don't use the gate, you're a thief or you're a predator. And it's almost at that moment where you see that there is like a crickets chirping, like a pregnant pause, where they're like, what is he talking about? Because they don't fully get it. It says they don't get what he's saying. And he says, okay, by the way, guys, I'm the gate. He says, let me dumb it down for you. And that's why it says, but then he said it again. Go to verse 7. Therefore Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Jesus says, I am the gate. The first thing that we need to know and we need to understand about this is that Jesus is looking at these people and saying, you are not good shepherds of God's people. You're actually hurting them. When he says, I am the gate, he is saying, you either have to come through me or you're a false shepherd. So that's going to bring us to our first life truth for the day. What exactly is Jesus saying when he says this? Life truth 1. Jesus is the one way of entering salvation. He makes an exclusive claim. The words in Greek that are used are ego eimi. It means I am. Any other time in Scripture, it doesn't use that phrase. It just says, boom, here is the eimi, right? But the emphatic nature of how Jesus says it, he was really driving home the point of saying the words, I am. Which incidentally, 2 weeks ago, Pastor Kevin talked about that was the name that God self-identified when he's talking to Moses at the beginning of Exodus. When Jesus says, I am the gate, he's saying, I am God, and the way that I'm teaching you is saying that I am the gate for the sheep.